Hi, and welcome to episode 6 of The Party Line. You're here with me, Annika. That's what you guys are going to do.
I feel like people know. Yeah, it's me, Omar.
Geordie.
As always, we recognise that the land that we're recording on is Indigenous land, and we stand in solidarity with our Indigenous comrades in their struggle against racism and capitalism. Welcome to The Party Line.
Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling party line. Oh, I never will forsake thee, for I love this life of mine.
Before we start, we should probably talk about, you might have heard some ads at the start of this podcast and perhaps the end. It's come to our attention that one of the ads was an ad for joining the prison officers, the Victorian government.
Wow, we've sold out already.
Yeah.
How many episodes did it take?
One or two, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
man, that's embarrassing.
So I guess if you're listening, don't do that. Don't become a cop or a screw.
We don't endorse any of the ads at the beginning of this podcast.
And to be honest, if you want us to delete the ads, all you have to do is subscribe to our Patreon.
Exactly.
We've got an internal pact. If when we get 10, we'll stop the ads.
Yeah.
So that's incentive to go to Patreon, and the link's in our show notes, and you can, we have a few different categories. You can be a bestie of the pod.
Yeah, feel free to do whatever the Povo one is. Like, it's just like...
Just Fred.
We need the cash.
Yeah.
Acquaintance is fine.
And we're getting stickers as well.
Yeah, we're
soon.
getting stickers.
So bumper stickers for your car.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I'm excited. Don't join the cops. And also another company is a mining company, apparently. So don't do whatever they're telling you either.
I mean, really what you should do is get an ad blocker so you never see an ad again on your phone. But
Don't think it
Don't
works.
think it works on the podcast.
no, it does. It blocks everything. Blocks Spotify, blocks everything.
Oh, really?
You just need to get the right ones.
Okay, so email us if you want to know what ad blocker Omar uses.
Yeah, not on Apple, obviously.
Naturally, yeah.
Yeah.
Or just skip the ads.
Yeah, if you just go bing bing and then it just goes over, and then you get to hear us talking shit to you. Well,
It's been a good day.
yes. I saw a tweet that said it was the greatest day on the Muslim calendar.
Yeah.
I did see that one. Yeah.
Because two quite incredible things happened. The murderous Dick Cheney finally passed away.
It took a long time. These people tend to live above average lives, don't they?
It's because of the adrenochrome. Is that how you say it?
What?
That's what they say. They say that like the super rich and powerful, like they collect like the adrenaline from the people that they like kill and torture, and then put it into their...
It's not real.
Well, no.
What do you mean? This is perfectly real.
So, I mean, there are products being developed for this purpose. I thought maybe you were talking about.
Yeah, there's a guy who did blood. He got his son, his
yeah.
child, to do blood transfusion so that he could have like young blood coursing through his veins, so that he could attain, forever life or whatever.
Yeah.
There was an article in the AFR this week, which was about an Australian man who's monetized anti-aging. He set up a corporation basically, and basically what he does is he does blood tests monthly, and then offers advice about exercise, diet, and vitamin supplements, which is fairly basic stuff. But his company is now worth $300 million on a stock exchange.
And it's just a company that like does a blood test and tells you to go for a run.
It's an anti-aging miracle cure. That's what it is.
My favorite one about the supplements was so there's two people who sell supplements. Well, obviously there's lots, but two in particular, Gwyneth Paltrow and Alex Jones of InfoWars. And Gwyneth
All the smartest people, really.
Gwyneth Paltrow's ones are like vitality, health, and then Alex Jones ones are like righto, you're going to be the biggest man ever. And they're the same supplements. They're produced in the same factory. So that's my favorite one. I think it's beautiful.
So cookerism actually has a longer history than COVID.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
It's good to know. But anyway, back to Cheney.
To Cheney.
Do people know who Cheney is, do you reckon? Do our younger listeners know who Dick Cheney is?
Well, you didn't know what COD was, so if they don't know who Dick Cheney is, it's like
bring that up.
Fair thing. Yeah, I mean, when so Christian Bale, he played Dick Cheney in a movie called Vice, because Dick Cheney was the vice president. And when he was accepting his Oscars speech, I think it was his Oscars award or something like that, he said, "Thank you, Satan, for giving me inspiration on how to play this role." Oh, it was a Golden Globe.
And reviled by everybody, so he went, "That's got to be Bale." Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
So Christian Bale, understands who Cheney was, which was Satan personified. Dick Cheney was the architect of the wars in Iraq.
Both of them, yeah.
And he was also the architect of the post 9/11 security sort of apparatus inside America, including like a whole bunch of the stuff about the American government spying on the population inside America.
NSA stuff.
And there's estimates of how many deaths that he was directly responsible as the architect of the wars in the Middle East and the war on terror. They put it at 4.5 million people murdered.
That's crazy. But I mean, so he was the Secretary of Defense under the first George Bush. So he did the first Iraq War, and then he was the and then he worked for Halliburton, a massive oil company.
Awesome.
For 5 years, from 95 to 2000. And then he was given the job of looking for a vice presidential candidate to run with George Bush. And he looked long and hard. He looked through a lot of resumes, and he decided, you know what? He'd be the best candidate.
Yeah.
And so he was the vice president, but he had a lot of power in that administration.
Yeah.
He was definitely the brains of the operation. Like George Bush is...
An idiot.
Yeah, to put it politely. And so he was one of the main figures who masterminded the whole wars on Iraq and Afghanistan. He approved of the special new torturing that became the norm under the so-called war on terror, where there was these open discussions in the mainstream about how, if there was a bomb in a shopping mall, torturing somebody to the inch of their lives was a valid thing to do in order to stop that bomb going off. And he was a real advocate for that approach. The criminal scenes that we saw in Abu Ghraib, if you haven't seen those photos of naked people stacked up in pyramids and stuff in an Iraqi prison under American occupation. This guy was the criminal mastermind, the Kissinger sort of our generation.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been pretty disgusting, because we talked about the Bushes, both the Bushes and Cheney in the later parts of their lives have been cleansed of their past image. Instead of being the murderers that they are, they're seen as these nice
Moderates.
old men.
Yeah.
Moderate Republicans.
Yeah.
And Dick Cheney, tried to cleanse his image by saying that Trump was, no good.
Yeah.
He and his daughter Liz Cheney both endorsed Kamala Harris, which
Kamala.
she didn't realize, or maybe didn't care, that was not a very good endorsement. But the thing is that what Cheney did when he was the vice president was actually set up a lot of the basis for what Trump is doing now, because he put so much power in the hands of the executive. They said that they didn't need to get congressional authorization for whatever they were doing, and they just had the right to do it.
And they stole the election.
Yeah, they stole.
Bush should never have been president. Yeah.
Yeah. So, far from being, this nice man who, tried to stop Trump, in the 11th hour, he's actually set up the political system that has allowed figures like Trump to come to power and do what he's doing now.
Absolutely. So it's a good day that he's dead. There'll be celebrations all across the Middle East and definitely here in sunny Melbourne. We're raising a toast to good old Dick Cheney.
Yeah, and we did get permission to do that.
Yeah, our comms director won't be mad at that one.
Yeah.
But the other good news, the other thing that makes, today an interesting day is the fact that Mamdani has won the mayoral race in New York.
On the same day, no less.
Yeah, Andrew Cuomo. I mean, it's quite incredible that he was being seriously pushed as a candidate, and he ended up winning 43% of the electorate.
Which is
Cuomo, that is.
Very significant.
Yeah, I mean, it shows there's a lot of people who are hostile to even the idea of quite moderate social democratic reforms. Cuomo's an absolute sex pest,
Totally.
a billionaire creep, done for corruption. misogyny, all the rest, racist pig. But yeah, so Mamdani beat him, and the millionaires are pretty sad about it.
Fleeing New York.
For all our critiques of Mamdani, it's nice to see the rich crawling out from their holes and complaining about the results of a democratic election. I mean, look, if maybe they'll put a siege on New York, like on Gaza, and say he's a terrorist.
I mean, they're already saying he's a terrorist.
Yeah,
that's done.
Well, the next step is kill 500,000 people and starve them to death for 17 years.
Naturally.
Well, Trump has said that he's looking into Mamdani's citizenship, and there's Republican Congress people who are pushing for Mamdani to be stripped of his citizenship and deported.
Can they do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I guess they can do whatever the
Anyone
fuck they
can
want
be
in
stripped of
America.
Citizenship, yeah.
And yeah, the billionaire support for Mamdani has been quite incredible.
Totally. They
Mamdani.
mobilise.
Sorry,
I mean, for
Cuomo.
Cuomo. Yeah. They probably mobilised against for a Democrat, like a Cuomo, for a Democrat against, the other Democrat. They probably mobilised a lot of money and resources, and even Trump was asked who would you vote for, and he was like, I'd vote for Cuomo.
Well, he basically is Cuomo.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
probably mates from old
Yeah.
times.
But they just, they mobilised. They really, spent millions of dollars making, racist ads about Mamdani and...
Eating with his hands.
Totally, yeah. That
how
was so
disgusting
much
is
effort
that?
in. It's like imagine eating a burger.
Yeah.
White people
far
don't
out.
do that.
No, we don't eat with our hands.
It's all knives and forks in white society.
Yeah, Elon Musk even came out for Cuomo. And there was a great sort of interaction on Twitter between Musk and this account called Trump Tracker. Musk is going on you have to vote tomorrow for Cuomo. And this person's like, this is the third sexual assaulter you have endorsed, which is not a lot, but weird that it's happened 3 times. And Musk is like, do you have a better suggestion?
Yeah. Acknowledging yes. Yes, this is the third.
It's actually one of the criterions when you're running to be a prominent
literally.
Republican
Well, yeah, you have to tick that box. That's all
or
right.
Democrat in this case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also another good one that Elon Musk, Ted Cruz posted.
Yeah.
Which seems like an obvious one, New York City, and then it's just a picture of the ballot, which is, you've got the two boxes and it says a Democrat, just a Democrat, and then an actual communist jihadist. And then I saw a community note under that one, which was quite funny, because the, Mamdani won the Democratic primary, and then so someone's like, actually, Cuomo isn't a communist or a jihadist.
Fact check. CNN fact check returns the results.
It's quite good.
I think, we talked about Mamdani a couple of weeks ago on the pod and sort of some of the, limitations that exist there. It'll be definitely interesting to see what happens in New York next. Where does Mamdani take things? But I think the fact that there was such a, big showing for Mamdani across lots of different areas of New York, it does show that thing of there is a genuine desire for a type of politics that can take on the sort of question of, the inequality that exists in society. And I think that it is worth noting that people weren't cowed by the attacks. I can't remember which one of you said before, but, there was all of the accusations that he was an anti-Semite. But actually some of Mamdani's votes, I mean, this is early days in terms of pouring through some of the statistics and stuff. But some of the early sort of results showed that Mamdani got a very high vote in a bunch of the areas that have high Jewish populations, which indicates that people aren't just they don't blindly take on what the right, the billionaires, the mainstream media tell them to take on. People can push past that and say, no, actually, we agree with the message of free childcare, free buses, taxes on the rich and the like, which I think is important.
Totally. I mean, it's, you can feel for the people of America who are living under Trump and before that Biden and before that Trump, that they want something to change. And you can imagine there would be a lot of jubilation on the streets of New York. I mean, with a bit of historical knowledge, we know that it's going to be very difficult for Mamdani to get through what he wants to do. And the strategy is part of the problem, that you're in this system that wants to stifle you and you're committed to working within it. But I think for now, it's like, you know, hopefully people's expectations are raised and they're ready to mobilize and fight, because it is going to be really hard. Like the Democratic governor of New York has already said she doesn't want to raise taxes. She's not interested in the more radical part of his program. And we know that Wall Street is not going to be interested in that either. And that's where Wall Street is. So, there's going to be a lot to play out on this story. But it's a good news story that, you know, half of New York is prepared to vote for a guy denounced as a Muslim socialist, communist, jihadist. There's hope for us yet.
Yeah. It's been funny on Twitter today that like all those, you know, Labour and Labour right, like student politics types have been, you know, celebrating, putting photos of Mamdani and saying like, oh, this is a victory and whatever. And those same people are probably today and have been, you know, for the last couple of years, arguing like directly against, you know, things like rent freezes, things like the very basic things that Mamdani is campaigning on. The same people like, oh, what a victory. It's like, also, we can't do that here. Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, because Mamdani, you know, a lot of the policies that he's put forward, they're not particularly radical in the sense they're not going to transform, you know, the nature of American capitalism or American society. But yeah, it's like, can you imagine the Labor Party putting forward like a forthright program of people deserve free stuff? Like, it's just, you know, inconceivable that, you know, Albanese would do any of that. Definitely.
Totally. And also something that's quite funny that always happens anytime that something like this happens, like we saw it in Victoria when the government wanted to introduce, you know, even just minimum standards and stuff like that, minimum rental standards. And in New York, it's like, oh, people are going to flee New York. And then there was some polling done and like people earning over $250,000 US dollars a year were likely to move according to this poll result.
What a shame.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'd be very sorely missed.
Exactly. That'd be great if all the billionaires and
subdivide the mansions.
Yeah, if they just left. Fantastic. But the stats show that just doesn't happen. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice if there was a policy that said all billionaires did have to
flee. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Implement that one on day one.
Riding out the party line.
Okay, this week has been another week where the Liberals and Nationals have dominated the news for doing very, very right-wing things. And this time it's really centered around the issue of net zero and climate change. And since the election, there's been a deep, profound reflection on their defeat. As we know, the right-wing are very serious about thinking about ideas and policies and so on. And so there's been a lot of discussion and the Liberals are going through a review, but the Nationals have jumped the gun and just come out and said, no, we're not interested in net zero. It's all a con. And they've covered their asses by saying, oh, we're just going to cut emissions by the average global rate.
Yeah.
But what they're really saying is basically we don't give a stuff.
Totally.
And climate change isn't real anyway. And what's the point? That's their actual view. We know that. And so then the Liberals are in a tiz because... they basically want to... more than half the party agrees with the Nationals and wants to go down this Trumpist line. They're being squeezed by One Nation who also agree with the Nationals on that. But then Susan Lay's also trying to relate to the inner city so-called moderate teal scum or whatever. So that's been really interesting to play out. And Susan Lay this morning on the radio basically seemed to be saying, yeah, we're going to give up on net zero, which I think makes sense. It reflects the balance of power inside that party. But it really does show, again, the way of the world. And it's like, this is meant to be the mainstream party of Australian capitalism. And they can't even talk about maybe one day transitioning to like net zero, which isn't even zero. It just means net zero. We can talk about that more. But yeah, so Trumpism is very much alive and growing in Australia in all sorts of spaces. Including the major party of Australian capitalism. Yeah,
I was going to say the thing about like Trumpism because again, like this has been a sort of through line of the discussions about the global far right and what they're doing. And a key part is the denial of the climate crisis, because if you accept that there's a climate crisis, then that means that you have to implement policy to deal with it. And that gets in the way of supercharging capitalism and imperialism. And Australian capitalism is so obviously centred around the fossil fuel production, the digging up of fossil fuels, shipping them out. how can, the Australian right, or even actually just the full gamut of Australian the political spectrum, how can they actually do anything meaningful about the climate crisis? They don't want to damage profits.
It's interesting though, because even in doing this, even in being like we're abandoning net zero by 2050 or whatever the actual commitment is, they're still fence sitting. They're still fence sitting on the like, does climate change exist? Because they're still saying, we'll lower our emissions in line with the rest of the world. We're not going to be a leader in this kind of discussion. But why? Like, what if you're acknowledging that we should lower our emissions? Why is that? So they're still acknowledging that climate change is a thing, but they're not trying to say that. They're not front footing that so that they can get all the the further to the right voters that they might lose. It is just like, it's ridiculous. And they deleted all their policy platform on their website for a sec a couple of days ago. And it's like, what is this party? This is the like profound kind of victory that Labor has had over these people, that they're just in absolute shambles.
Well, that's one of the things that the mainstream media keep pointing to, the urban seats, and which I think is a real problem for them. Like, the Teals are essentially Liberals, but they're just they can't fit in the current structure of the Liberal Party because it's just moved so far to the right. So the media keeps pointing that out, and it's a legitimate thing to point out. But the thing about political parties is they're made up of people, and those people have ideas and motivations. And the reality is the balance of power in the Liberals is like men over the age of 70 who, are not particularly passionate about the climate or anything else progressive. They love Jacinta Price precisely because she's like a Indigenous fascist, like they like that. It's like a troll, it's like why Trump likes Ben Carson. And so they just keep getting pulled in that direction. And every time someone sensible tries to say, well, hold on, what about this? Well, the party rank and file actually matter. And they keep pre-selecting right-wingers, and the policy keeps moving to the right. On the other hand, that can breed a certain complacency because people think, oh, well, they can never win. But like Tony Abbott was a freak.
Totally.
And he managed to win because Labor tore itself apart.
Yeah.
And that's how most governments lose. It's not by the other side offering visionary policy. It's just by waiting. Yeah,
we vote people out. That's how it works here.
Yeah,
because no one has anything. Yeah, no one has anything positive to offer. So it's like, oh, who's doing the most shit?
Yeah, exactly.
And let's not vote for them. Incredible.
And I think the way that this sort of debate is playing out in the Liberal Party, where they see the massive victory of the Labor Party in the last election compared to them, and whatever. And Susan Ley comes in, who's supposed to be a moderating force, trying to put the Liberal Party back on the sort of strategy of, we need to be the sensible party of Australian capitalism, etc. All this Trumpist stuff is not playing with the electorate. But how, like, that argument can't win out precisely because of the stuff, well, maybe it can, but this argument can't be victorious in this current moment because of the stuff that Omar raised about who are the people inside. And like Susan Ley can't last much longer. Someone will come for a hasty, whatever. And I think the Nationals dumping net zero is it's a way of pushing the Liberal Party to where the Nationals want them to go. So they go out first. Or another way of thinking about it, maybe this sounds conspiratorial, but all of the stuff about Barnaby Joyce and, is he going to be the leader of One Nation and side with Pauline Hanson? That's also political pressure about saying we want right-wing politics. We have to be unabashed about our right-wing politics. We're going to, rule for the regions and we're going to rule for the Trumpists. And so what the Nationals are doing is creating a drag to the right so that they can reshape the Liberals' politics. And then
Barnaby Joyce came out and said, this is exactly what I wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
So not conspiratorial after all.
Yeah. But sorry, go on.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I can't remember. This is what happens when men interrupt.
Sorry. I'm a person of colour, so, maybe that helps. Should we talk about Labor, though? Because the thing that the Liberals and Nationals squabbling about net zero kind of obscures is that the net zero targets are actually a crock of absolute shit.
Yeah.
And will do
Yes.
nothing to stop climate change. I mean, this is, numerous climate scientists and experts and NGOs in Australia have said this, and the media focus on the Liberals because they're actually, a major party. But the science is clear. So I saw the Climate Council of Australia came out and said that the 43% emission cut that's planned for 2030, which is set in stone now, is almost half of what's needed. We need 70% cut by 2030. And the net zero has to be way earlier than 2050. And they've also, I saw a different report that showed that all the gains that we're supposedly making in terms of reducing emissions are actually just accounting dodgy accounting. They say, there's a forest in South Australia and that absorbs 18 gigatons of carbon or whatever. Then the next year they say, actually we've done new science and it's actually absorbing 21 gigatons and then it's 25. And then the most recent one was like they tripled it. The amount of carbon that land use was withdrawing from the atmosphere. And so this is responsible for almost all the reductions in our climate emissions. So the whole thing is absolute rubbish.
It is. It's a crock of shit. And it's like even on the like talking about the Liberals being the sensible managers of Australian capitalism, when you've got, like we spoke about last week, the CEO of the manufacturing businesses lobby industry and Fortescue being like, actually we want you to get rid of our diesel credit and replace it with a renewable subsidy so we can use renewable fuels and renewable vehicles, electric vehicles instead of our big expensive diesel ones. Like, you're not the sensible managers of Australian capitalism anymore. And like, they know that's profitable. They need at least this facade that you're mentioning before of net zero by 2050 so that they can keep manufacturing and making profit. They need this. And then for the Liberals to reject that completely is ridiculous. That's bad capitalism.
It's interesting because a lot of the sort of green and gold climate responses that the mineral lobbies and the energy lobbies and stuff like that put out around the time that there were the big climate movements were similarly to the net zero stuff about putting a facade over what they were doing. So there was all of the discussion about green hydrogen, about carbon storage and capture, and all of these things will do nothing about the climate crisis. Half of them, the technology does not exist yet and, isn't getting closer to existing. And the reason why they want to push for this stuff is because they can make profits out of it. It's new industries that they can open up. And it delays what is the real requirement for confronting the climate crisis, which is shutting down the fossil fuel industry. That is the way that you would get a reduction in our emissions.
Exactly.
Not a new study into an already existing fucking forest.
Exactly. And so the Victorian Socialist policy has been about shutting down the fossil fuel industry and replacing it with a renewable energy system. Imagine if the $360 billion that they put into AUKUS was put into creating a clean energy grid in our country. It could do it, very quickly. This would create new jobs.
Yeah, it would.
And what we have now is a situation where we're producing enough solar energy through the bloody solar panels that are on people's houses that the government is saying, during the day we should have free, energy companies should produce free, give free energy, which indicates that we have an excess of energy production. So we have an excess and we could have even more, but we're limited because, politicians are very narrow-minded.
Absolutely. I mean, when I was doing research for this segment, I discovered that Australia actually gives $14.9 billion at a federal and state level in subsidies to fossil fuel corporations every year. And that was this year. And then last year it was 14.5. So it's actually increasing the subsidy going to fossil fuels. So AUKUS, is a good point. But even just the fossil fuel industry, if you took that money and invested it, like renters, you can't put a solar panel on your roof if you're a renter. And so you're paying high electricity bills. So everything skews, like the more working class, the poorer, the younger you are, the less you have access to these things. And, you know, obviously people who own their own houses are more likely to have solar panels. So there's so much that could be done to invest in community level renewable energy, not just like privatized, because that's the other thing. It's so privatized. It's like the new battery subsidy scheme. It's like you're just saying middle class people who own their own house already have solar, here's free money for a battery, rather than saying, which obviously helps the people who need it the least, rather than saying we're going to build government owned batteries that will help out people, you know, regardless of whether they can afford to buy it or not. So it's that kind of model.
And the other thing is like just the sorry to interrupt you this time around. The other thing is that the Labor Party is actually just approving a whole series of projects that are going to massively increase emissions. So all of this stuff about net zero, reducing it by 2030, 2050 is absolute fucking shit, because they're going to approve the Burrup Hub project off the coast of Western Australia. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, off the coast of Western Australia. Which, you know, not even to mention the way that this is going to destroy an important Indigenous site where there is incredible Indigenous art that goes back, you know, thousands and thousands of years. But it's going to, they call it a carbon bomb. Like the amount of carbon that this thing is going to, release is, destructive.
Yeah, Western Australia is already exports and as a result generates more carbon emissions than 150 countries on Earth. Or before this offshore. Because Western Australia is a massive LNG exporter. And so if you add, this almost doubles it. So this one project almost doubles the exports. So it undoes everything that, you know, even nominally has been achieved.
Yeah. It is genuinely insane. Like the Labor government's in approving the largest, you know, extensions to fossil fuel projects, and at the same time, as you mentioned before, we've got there are periods during the day where if you do have solar panels on your roof, the grid will not buy it back from you because there is an oversupply. And then, that's why Labor's talking about, maybe we should have, you know, a period during the day where there's free energy and whatever. At the same time as there's this massive oversupply of energy, while we're approving massive extensions to, fossil fuel projects, energy has gone up, the cost of energy has gone up, like, faster than we've ever seen. And that's like, that's a classic, capitalist, rate of profit slowing down and whatever, but also oversupply of something that we that we get for free from the fucking sun. Let's just pay more for extending. Like, this is just Labor.
And I saw that the actual wholesale price of electricity went down in the last quarter. So while we're all copying massive increases to our fees,
huge,
the wholesale price for energy actually dropped.
They're
in Victoria and across Australia.
So that they can increase their rate of profit. But also, like, during all of this, while the price goes down, like, what is it? The aluminium smelter is like, we can't afford this anymore. We can't afford the gas required to do our smelting. So we're just going to shut down. Like, this stuff is cheap now.
Do you remember when they called this a culture war? Like, in 2019, the election, Bill Shorten, it's like, imagine thinking about the climate crisis as a question of culture. Like, it's so clearly a question of, politics of, do you care about human life or do you care about profits? And absolutely. It's the Labor Party took the lesson from the so-called culture war of the climate crisis in 2019 and said, well, we're never going to do anything about it, and we're going to let the world burn.
Yeah,
and so we will.
And they keep saying very explicitly that pretty much their goal is to neutralize the issue without addressing it. So, what's his name? Murray what?
Environment Minister.
Yeah. He came out and said, when the question was put to him on Radio National, like, some Greens and environmentalists and Greens have said that you're not doing enough. His response was simply, well, they're saying that, the Liberals are saying we're doing too much, so I reckon that means we probably got it right.
Yeah.
And it's like, but hold on, whether you've got it right or wrong is not determined by the discourse.
No.
It's actually determined by some sort of objective measure of science and society. So, they just want this issue dead.
Yeah.
And the media sort of helped them by highlighting the Liberal and National side of it and not the climate side of it.
Yeah.
But the reality is Australia's like Saudi Arabia, you know, like so much of our domestic economy is services, you know, healthcare, education, aged care, childcare, all that essential stuff. Doesn't make enormous profits at a global level. So mining and exporting of extractive goods is definitely the biggest source of international trade and so on. And so Australia's committed to that.
Yeah.
And actually they don't include any of the emissions from the stuff that we dig out and in our emissions anyway.
Yeah.
So the climate report that said about Western Australia, well, the Australian government doesn't count any of that.
Yeah, because
in our
someone else
emissions.
burns it.
Yeah. Oh, blame India or China,
Yeah.
you know, like, well, hello, you're creating it.
Totally. And because you said that they're trying to neutralise it. I mean, that's true on one level. But also the Labor Party is actively trying to campaign around this stuff and put forward an argument that they actually are doing something about the climate crisis. And so there's the discussion about the new sort of EPA legislation that they're going to introduce, which the Greens have indicated that they don't support. And so the Labor Party is putting huge amounts of money and campaigning efforts into green or seats that looks like the Greens could potentially win or seats that Labor want to win back from the Greens to put forward an argument that the Greens are wreckers, you know, they're political
blockers.
terrorists, blockers, and trying to win people to an argument that the Labor Party is doing something good in this scenario. So it's also a case of the Labor Party actively trying to win people to a right-wing political program in opposition to, you know, who knows if the Greens will oppose it or how long they'll hold out, or, you know, they didn't for the last round of climate legislation that was introduced. But Labor, obviously, they notice that there's a weak point here, and so they're trying to strengthen that weak point that exists for them.
Exactly. And like at the end of the day, if you're, you know, like a centrist Labor minister or whatever, and you've got someone on the right telling you that you've shit your pants and then someone on the left telling you that you've shit your pants, the answer isn't like, oh, well, they both say I did something bad, so I must be right. Like, you've probably just shat your pants.
Yeah.
Riding out the party line.
Well, on the podcast, we wanted to do a segment eventually, and we've gotten around to it finally, about just socialist concepts.
We need a jingle.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
If someone knows how to make jingles, email us.
And a snappy title.
Because we have socialist segments, but it's kind of the whole thing
kinda,
is a socialist segment.
Yeah, this is, yeah.
So we encourage ideas. Please email us.
Yeah. And I guess one of the I guess core concepts that we want to talk about is class. Like, what is it? It's a big topic, so we're just going to talk about the capitalist class in today's lesson. But yeah,
What's a capitalist class?
great question.
What is that voice?
Rich people.
I'm a child.
Was your baby? Yeah.
How would you define class, Omar?
I guess class is determined by your relationship to
Production.
the way that the economy works, like the way that we produce everything we need to live.
Yeah.
And so I guess the capitalists would be the people who own the stuff that we need to produce food, shelter, transport, international shipping, all that kind of stuff. And if you own that, you have a lot of power both over how that stuff works, but then also how society works more broadly.
Yeah.
And if you generate your, you know, wealth or whatever through working, through a salary, and like, this is an oversimplification, but you're probably not that person. You're probably not the capitalist class. Yeah. And
I think you would know if you were.
I think
You
it
wouldn't
would
be listening. I suspect.
exactly. Yeah, you'd
You'd be on an
probably-
island off the Bahamas somewhere.
Or you could be like one of those, young men at university who, when they run into socialists, they say, "Well, I want to be a capitalist," and it's like, "Buddy, I'm
Yeah.
really sorry, but chances are you're not going to be one." So
They'll take your promotion. Like, cheers for that. Oh, we were at was it RMI? No. Which uni campus? Someone was walking past and they're like, "I'm going to create a Victorian capitalist."
yeah, I think that was at Swinburne University.
Incredible.
I think there's a few of them.
Yeah,
already.
don't worry. Just join an
One of
already
them's called
existing
Liberal,
one.
Labour, One Nation.
You'll be fine.
I think one of the easiest ways of thinking about like what is the capitalist class is actually just like, you know, personify, like who are the capitalist class personified. You know, in Australia we have Gina Reinhardt, who is Australia's wealthiest person.
Yep.
I
And
think
second largest property owner as well,
Yeah.
after the Catholic Church.
Do you mean it's not migrants?
No, would you believe?
Oh, shit.
And then, of course, there's Rupert Murdoch, there's Elon Musk. And I guess, back to Omar's description, it's like, what do all these people have in common? They own the huge, they own what produces everything in society. So Rupert Murdoch has control over media empires. Gina Reinhardt has, all of the iron ore. Elon Musk has, car companies, distribution networks.
Military, industrial stuff, more importantly, to be honest.
And it's changed from when this when we first started talking about this, it's not just a single owner of a factory and then all of the rest of the workers anymore. It's also about control. Companies are worth so much money these days. And I've got some stats here. In 1998, the wealthiest 5% of families in Australia owned 76% of shares and similar investments, 46% of bank deposits, 46% of rental properties, and 29% of private business equity, which they might not own those companies outright, but they own the control over those companies and what they do and how they profit from, people's labor. So it looks different today than it might have looked in, the 1890s, I think.
Yeah, well, you might not have a crown or whatever.
Exactly.
You wouldn't be called a laird or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think I read a research report once that said that capitalist society is less socially mobile than feudalism.
Yeah.
That there's less mobility, that people are, to be super rich, you're much more likely to be born into it. And you can see why. Once you have this kind of congregation of wealth, what's Musk worth? $500 billion now?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't break into that without a lot of luck.
Totally.
And, one person or two people, 5 people can have that kind of business. But for the vast majority of people, by definition, we can't be that. And so it's a very stagnant and authoritarian structure, but it's hidden behind this idea of the free market, competition.
Yeah.
Everyone can be anything, that the great American dream.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And while that the stats that I read out were from 1998, so they're very old now. During various crises like the GFC and COVID and stuff like that, the rich, the capitalist class, their wealth increases quite dramatically.
Yeah.
So in the last 2 decades, for example, the wealth of Australia's wealthiest 200 people tripled. Which is insane. And during that same time period, the average value of a household's wealth with someone under 35 in it fell 5%, and also about 20% if you had people aged 35 to 44 years. I don't know why I've got that stat. That's a really awkward stat.
Yeah, that's not a great stat.
But
what you're saying,
rich people,
is that we didn't triple our wealth.
No, in fact, it went down by about a third.
Honestly, if you'd asked me, I could have told you. That's not what happened.
Also, this is a better one. The share of the country's wealth held by the bottom 40% of society, this is in Australia, declined from 7.8% to
7.
That's how much wealth the bottom 40% of Australia had from 2004.
How much lower can it get?
5.5% now, well, in 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's 40% of people.
And I think that you have to understand this as not just sort of like a natural process, that it's just like the wealth of the rich and powerful increases and our wealth declines. It's an active process. There's an active element to this, because we have to understand it as a class war. When the rich get more rich, they are enacting class war on the working class and, the massive, the poor and etc. So there was actually Sam Warman, who's an amazing artist, put a post up, I think today or yesterday, where he looked at the graph between, wealth of the super rich goes up and up and up, and union membership has gone down, 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 down. And you can do the same graph with, the wealth of the rich and powerful going up and days on strike go down,
Going
down,
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 yeah.
down. And so when the working class is not actively engaged in a political
Struggle.
and economic resistance against the capitalist class, this means that the capitalist class have all the space in the world to attack ordinary people. And those attacks can look like, things like cutting co-health or, reducing wages, forcing people to work longer hours. In Greece, they just legislated a 13-hour fucking day, meaning that, people are working another, I can't do maths, 5 hours for the bosses. So this isn't natural. It is a battle. And there's the quote from is it Donald Rumsfeld?
Editor's note here, it's actually Warren Buffett.
Where he says there's a class war, all right, and my class is winning it.
Yeah.
And so we need to know, like the capitalist class do, that there's a war going on, and we've got to fight the class war on our side to mean that our wealth can go up and theirs can go down.
Yeah. Let's see our wealth triple in the next
Yeah, that'd be
20 years.
nice.
That can be a Victorian Socialist slogan.
And ours is collective, like not just
Yeah,
Jordan
yeah.
and
Yeah,
Omar and us.
I mean, look, if you want to triple my wealth.
Not going to say no.
But back to the capitalists, so they have, Marxists talk about this a lot, and socialists, like material interests, and sometimes that can seem like a really kind of dry concept. But what we really mean when we say that is like the rich have an interest in lowering our wages. They have an interest in making our working lives harder, so we have less control over what goes on at work, less right to collectively organize, less right to have an opinion like Jordan here, less right. Are you allowed to say that?
It's fine.
Maybe we edit that out. Less rights to free speech at work, less rights to join a union. But it's also political things like Trump's bigotry and the bigotry of people like John Howard and other neoliberal class warriors. Like that's also part of the class war, People think class war just means economics, and it does mean economics, but racism, sexism, all these other divisive ideas are part of it because they're about dividing up the class, pitting us against each other, making us fight between ourselves for representation and whatever, while they're making away with the big bucks. And so socialists have to understand that as a totality. And that's why when the far right is funded by billionaires, we want to point that out because actually it fits with them. The capitalists are not just interested in just making money. They think about how they manage their whole system. And ideas like racism and so on really fit with that.
Yeah.
Definitely. And one of the arguments about raised against the capitalists increasing their wealth or raised in favor of them doing that is they're taking the risk. They're putting the money behind the investment or whatever. But in reality, it's not their money that they're doing that with. It's the money that they stole from us as their workers. And also it's never a risk. It's never a risk to them. If that gamble doesn't pay off, it's thousands of workers who will be sacked, and then they'll just try a different investment somewhere else.
Or what about the risk that workers take every day they go to work? And you think about Elon Musk, who has operated warehouses in America where people have been forced to stay at work when there's hurricanes.
Yeah.
And 5 people were killed in in one of Elon Musk's warehouses in the United States because they weren't allowed to leave when there was a huge flood, and they were killed from that. So actually the capitalist class, they risk their workers' lives. And then as we were talking about the climate crisis, they also risk the entire world in the pursuit of profit. Because I think the other part of what is the capitalist class is thinking about, what's the thing that drives capitalism and ergo drives the capitalist class. It's about profit and it's about power. And the way that you achieve both of those things is you outcompete your enemies. So then competition is the thing that is the glue that binds both of those. And so these capitalists are competing with one another. Another argument that people sometimes make is competition is good because it leads to innovation. But actually all of this competition leads to shit. Shit for ordinary
Coles and
people.
Woolies.
Yeah.
That's where you end up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just capitalists moving from, like Elon Musk did, moving from where was he before? LA to Texas because their labor laws are, more favorable to a capitalist and they have less tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Incredible.
it drives
Good
everyone
competition.
down. Yeah, it just
Yeah.
drives everything down to the lowest common denominator. I think the thing about the billionaires, like people used to argue that them getting rich helps us all. I think that's pretty clearly.
People aren't doing that anymore.
Yeah, the right would probably still, but I think most leftish people can see that's all rubbish. But then they do use their economic power to blackmail governments, and that's the other side of it. So, yeah, like in Australia with the mining tax, the short-lived one that Julia Gillard proudly destroyed on behalf of Gina Rinehart and Twiggy Forrest. So they use their leverage over the economy because, the state regulates the economy, but it doesn't do that much investing directly anymore. And so capitalists can blackmail the government by saying, well, we employ thousands of people in this electorate. If you don't want to see them all shut down, you got to give us some handouts. Ford did that for decades. Got a lot of money from the government. All these smelters that you were talking about earlier, Geordie, are doing that now, and they're all getting, lots and lots of money.
They're getting bailouts. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they influence policy as well. So the EPA, one of the things they've written into that is the government can override any environmental concern if it's an issue of national interest.
Yeah.
I.e. any project that's big enough to matter to the national economy will be approved.
Yeah.
And that's an example of big capital lobbying government. And the threat of blackmail. It doesn't even have to be used most of the time, but just the threat allows them to get their way. And so, from a socialist point of view, the executive of the state and the capitalist class are kind of bound together very tightly. So even though the prime minister or the president isn't really a capitalist themselves, they're part of the ruling class more broadly and really have to be understood in a pretty kind of similar way.
And they can have that political power, that economic power, ability to influence, the decisions that are made by the government. And then they also have the power to change the sort of discourse and the way that things are understood and what's the particular argument that's being put out into the population. So in Australia, the media landscape is, it's either Rupert Murdoch or it is Gina Rinehart is a major shareholder.
Yeah.
These are the competing,
This is a competition.
Yeah. And so that's why you have a situation in a place like Victoria where the media can put forward a pretty universal political line on any given day. And so at the moment, what is it? It's the crime crisis and this argument that it's scary for Victorians to, go outside the door. And
there's just machetes flying.
You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Or, sometimes what's the political argument? It's that the Palestine movement is a really big problem or, the climate crisis isn't real. And so there's also that capacity to shape what is the way that people are thinking about and talking about the world around them.
Yeah, I'll never forget when Channel 7 revived Pauline Hanson's career by putting on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, God.
No, you guys laughed. It was a really serious thing.
I know.
It was
It's just terrible.
This woman is not a
Evil.
nobody
Yeah.
and a fascist. And Kerry Stokes is like, well, I need to revive this. This isn't good enough. We need a right wing. And so he just put her on TV and let her dance for a while. And obviously you speak as well. And look, Pauline Hanson's just a friendly
She's a fuddy-duddy.
old lady who can
Yeah,
not really dance very
relatable.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a lot of influence. It doesn't mean that everyone agrees with it, but it sets the terrain,
Yeah.
And it's like with this net zero stuff. It's so easy to focus on the Liberals and miss the fact that the current policy of the Labor Party is to destroy the world, by continuing to export billions and billions of tons of carbon through gas and coal exports, So that stuff's really influential.
Yeah.
And Whitlam, the Whitlam dismissal's coming up, and the media played a big role in the lead up to that and in the aftermath. So at all key moments, the media plays a really good role. Trotsky has a great quote, the media
A
will
really good
sometimes... A powerful role. The media will sometimes tell the truth when it doesn't matter, so it can lie when it really matters, And I think that's really appropriate.
Thanks, Trotsky.
Riding out the party line.
Did you guys see that Pauline Hanson was in America with Gina Rinehart? They went to Mar-a-Lago for Donald Trump's Halloween party.
Amazing.
Which I think is just as an aside.
What a dystopian event.
The whole, have you guys seen photos from it? It's horrific. It's like a Great Gatsby themed Halloween party. They have this ice sculpture that costs thousands and thousands of dollars to get your drink out of. And literally women in martini glasses, like big-sized, human-sized martini glasses. And it's just like these women are just like there.
Yeah.
They're just statues
Yeah.
there.
It's incredible.
But
I wonder whether anyone ever reads Great Gatsby. Like, the whole book is a critique of the super rich.
Yeah, this is bad.
Yeah.
I just don't know if the rich are like capable of capable of self-reflection in that way. It's actually. Oh, anyways, no, we don't need to talk about Lukash on this podcast. But so
Wise editing.
So they're at Mar-a-Lago, hobnobbing with the sort of rich and powerful and the far right in America. And, this is another way of these linkages into, internationally that the far right in America are doing, the mega movement are doing. But I think it's relevant because in Australia, there's obviously this growing far right that are sort of making gains. Pauline Hanson is polling, 15, 20%, or I'm not sure what the latest statistics.
15, I think.
Yeah, significant jumps.
Yeah. So more than the Greens, potentially more than the Nationals.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The Nationals poll like 5-6%.
Yeah. So who knows how long this will all last, but at least at the moment, Hanson is trying to cultivate herself as a potential future partner for a Liberal government, and Hanson is trying to cultivate that as well.
Reinhardt, Gina Reinhardt.
Yeah. What did I say?
Hanson,
Yeah.
Hanson and Hanson.
Yeah, Gina Reinhardt is trying to cultivate that and, getting a ticket into Mar-a-Lago for Hanson.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of her being really serious, and it's hard because she's so unimpressive. But she's a serious political operator. She's been doing this for a long time, and I think the fact that Gina Reinhardt is now backing her quite openly, Barnaby Joyce is potentially moving to join the party. Like both Joyce and Reinhardt's a capitalist. Joyce is a serious politician who was once the leader of the Nationals, has a lot of links to mining and agribusiness. So this means that the party is going to have access to resources. It's doubled its membership since the election. So all these things are coming together. And it's hard if you live in Melbourne or Sydney, you don't really see One Nation apart from election time, but they're a real force, and they have a social base, which is rural, but also very conservative, right-wing people, which exist in Australia. There's plenty of them. And they're organising and mobilising.
Yeah.
And they're obviously inspired. Like, if you were a fascist right now, or far-right, whatever, you're looking around the world and thinking, yeah, things are looking pretty good. Like, we've just done a genocide over there. We've got our president over there. In France, who knows what's after Macron, but it's not looking good, etc.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a serious challenge to the left, I reckon.
And I think Hanson's obviously the more legitimate or more realistic sort of far-right party that exists. But it's pretty terrible. The Nazis in the NSN have indicated that they're going to try and register a political party for the upcoming federal election. They've said that they have gotten more registrations than some of the other far-right parties that have been growing, who aren't neo-Nazis but are in the far right, and they have been doing a lot to try and build up this political membership. So,
Do you know what the party's called?
White Australia.
Wow.
Yeah. So and their justification for all of this is that Australia was set up as a white nation. It was set up as a white Australia, and so they're trying to protect the heritage of Australia, etc. The people who are running this they call themselves Hitler's soldier. Like they're the most revolting individuals. But they're doing a lot of different things to try and build up their political support and their political base. It's worth saying that the NSN are only between 100 and 180 actual members, but they're getting the registrations. And so they have been doing stunts where they go to politicians' press conferences and interrupt them. They do hiking trips and the like.
They disrupted like an Indigenous thing on Invasion Day, didn't they?
Yeah. The dawn
Last year?
service
Yeah.
on Anzac Day.
Anzac Day, yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing is about building links in the same way, differently though, but like building links with the American far right.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly the manosphere and the people around Andrew Tate. I don't know if you guys saw the Age report.
Yeah, the right hand man kind of thing of Tom Sewell was involved with Andrew Tate.
Yeah. So this guy's name's Sterling Cooper, and he is like an ex-porn star turned sex coach. I like went to his YouTube page, but like did not want to play any of the videos because they're like how to dominate your woman or whatever, like really terrible. And in the Age report, there's a video of him with Andrew Tate, and they're talking about how to basically isolate your partner from her social networks. And they say, you know, if she has friends, if she has a social network, if she has anyone outside of you, you failed as a man, you're not masculine.
Yeah, even family, I think. Like, cut her off. So
It was mental.
they're promoting like intense abuse and calling this, you know, what like male power, masculinity. Yeah. This is the way the relationship should be. But it's interesting because the Cooper thing, like Sterling Cooper, it ties in with an approach that the NSN are taking, which is actually working with rich and powerful people to build their political brand. So they also obviously had Hugo Lennon, who's the son of,
the largest residential property development company in this country.
Yeah, he's passionate about housing affordability for the working class.
Yeah, definitely. So they've got him, and then a few other influencers. They've been targeting, men who are in wealthy families, in like private school networks. Another report was about the sort of people who have been going to their training networks, hardly being like poor, disadvantaged people, dentists, sales people, like whatever. Like, so what they're doing is cultivating a network of influencers, rich and powerful people who can give them money, and then ties to this type of politics that is unfortunately attractive to a layer of young men in Australia, in the UK, in America.
Yeah, I think this was a really interesting story because so much of the conversations about fascism globally is about the sort of white working class, which is a mythical idea because the working class has never been white. But it's the go-to trope. You know, as soon as fascists are doing anything, the conversation in the liberal media or the bourgeois media of all different types is, oh, well, these people have concerns, they're downtrodden and so on. Whereas what this highlights is actually these people are not downtrodden at all. They're doing the trodding.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
And this has often been the case with the fascist movement. Its leaders, and its core apparatchiks. They're not at all from the downtrodden. They're solidly either wealthy or solidly middle class people with a grievance, and they feel like their position at the top of society's hierarchy is slipping, and they want to kind of cling to it and assert it in a more aggressive way.
That's right.
And I think this is useful in that sense, because the aftermath of the March for Australia demos was just despicable. All the rubbish
legitimate
about
concerns.
housing prices and all these people, as if these, middle-aged men didn't have houses, and as if that was their concern. Like if you had a housing crisis issue, I think there were different ways to express it, not organising a fascist march with Australian flags. Like, there's just no connection.
Led by someone who's responsible in Victoria for that crisis.
Yeah. So I think it clarifies things. And like Tommy Robinson just adopts this sort of the British equivalent of ochre.
Yeah.
A lad.
Yeah, he's just a lad, He has mansions and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I mean that was the thing with Andrew Tate is he puts forward the argument like, I'm rich and I'm glad about it, and this is he obviously how did he get rich? Was about exploiting and abusing and trafficking young women to do it. But it's like these people are wealthy. They want to remain wealthy, and that's part of the reason why they set up these far-right networks. But I think the manosphere stuff's kind of worth talking about as well, because it is quite alarming to see the increase in sexist ideas that is, developing amongst young people. Andrew Tate is one expression of the popularity of these sexist and disgusting ideas.
Yeah, I teach in primary schools, before you go on, and like grade 3, 4, 5 boys talk about him and, the grind culture, the hustle culture, buying and selling Pokemon cards like at low prices, selling high, all this kind of shit. Seriously, it's
the actually, hustle culture.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's having a real impact. But sorry, go on.
Well, no, I mean, it's relevant because the grind culture, the hustle culture, the wealth, it shows you that there's nothing hostile to the status quo, really, about far-right politics. They want to take capitalism, what it is right now, which is a system of hierarchy, of violence, of brutality that has racism and misogyny packed into it, and the sort of pursuit of wealth. They want to take those things and take them to their logical conclusion. And so I think Tate reflects all of that in the most disgusting way. But it's part of the reason why they can get a foothold is because there's nothing transgressive about it.
That's right. Yeah. It's just like set up a small business when you're young and, make money by whatever means necessary. Everyone around you is like a piece of shit to be stepped on, to be used as a ladder, like, take any foothold you can, fuck over anyone you can to make some money. I mean, it's not that different from the capitalist dream, of like work hard, and because all the working hard stuff rests on exploiting other people and screwing people over and so on. So it fits with it. But then it does take things to like an extreme. So like I know in schools, again, like there's had to be serious meetings at pretty much every school I've taught at, like multiple times with year levels as they reach a certain age where, and different schools handle it better than others, where they kind of talk through like what's wrong with these ideas. Some schools just try and ban it and say, we're not going to talk about it. And if you say it, you're in trouble, which I think is a pretty crap way of dealing with it. But then other schools have more like proper conversations. Because a lot of these people, they're not like, at that age at least, they're not so far gone. They're just like, they think this is what it means to be a boy, or a man. But obviously there's other ways of being that are not so appalling. But it takes a real effort, and it manifests in the treatment of women teachers as well.
Yeah.
I know that I get, even though I'm a casual, I get a better run from some of the kids, like the guys, than their actual teachers do sometimes because, I'm a guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I mean, part of the thing of like they're not so far gone. There was a Guardian interactive article about boys who had been sort of in the manosphere and then how did they sort of get themselves out of it. And part of the research shows that when men actually start talking to women, if they have jobs where they work and have just relationships with women talking to them, they realise that the stuff that Andrew Tate was teaching them was bullshit. So, I mean, part of it is people have to, turn off TikTok and go talk to people. But obviously that's not enough. It's just that's one element of it. It's like it's actually about cultivating a politics that doesn't because there is a reality to it. We have to get rid of some of that reality, which means fighting for women's rights and, creating more equality, because the more that women are actually second-rate citizens or whatever, it means that it's more likely for sexist ideas to be able to be cultivated and developed. But also, it turns out that it's not just men who are entering the manosphere.
Awesome.
Who else is there?
Women.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which, like there's this...
The trad wife thing.
The trad wife thing.
Yeah.
But so it takes you back to the NSN. Okay, so the NSN, they're obviously trying to pull more people into their networks. And they have deranged political ideas, one of which is they have to, have lots and lots of children so that they can save the white race, which is, disappearing in front of their eyes. And so they have a women's auxiliary So what they do is they encourage the NSN boys to go find a girlfriend and then use the sort of Sterling Cooper, Andrew Tate method to isolate their partners from their friends and family, marry them, and then force them to have children. And so like lock people into this fucking Nazi.
Well,
It is insane. And they have like actual like strategies and tactics that they use, like in terms of where if they come across family members that are concerned about, you know, their daughter and the guy that she's hanging out with, like they tell their members to go and argue with the father and be like, what have you done for our culture? Like, what have you done to fight for our culture?
God.
And it's like, obviously you're not gonna come to an agreement there. And, you know, the partner is gonna have to pick a side.
Yeah.
And like, it's horrific.
Yeah.
And it's effective.
So there's that side of things, which is just like terrifying, horrible, like NSN members, you know, implementing manipulative, abusive practices. But there's this growth of like right-wing conservative women who are trying to win more women to the sort of like, the far right politically. So, I mean, this isn't the far right, but to go back to the beginning of our episodes, there was like the hot girls for Cuomo sort of trend that developed. So it was like all these women who were like, we're the hot girls for, which is like, this guy's a
The
fucking
sex pest, yeah.
So I don't know how that worked in
I mean,
their
it's
favor.
kind of appropriate, to be honest. Like, I don't really get the hot girls thing, but like sex pests are probably the ones who are going to enjoy that one. most.
Yeah, sure.
And then anyways, so then there's also, that was also translated into hot girls for capitalism.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Was that a thing?
Yeah, they had like t-shirts like hot girls for
Oh my
capitalism
God.
was like, you know, the sort of the next slogan.
Also appropriate.
But then there's the whole sort of Candace Owen sphere. There's a magazine which is like a sort of conservative version of like Vogue or Cosmo or whatever, which they have like a sort of sex tips, you know, how to give a good blowjob or whatever. But then there's like an asterisk, which is like, this is only appropriate for people who are married. Like,
Amazing.
you know, so they're putting forward like the, you know, God, family, country sort of politics. And then Erica Kirk is turning into like a massive figure of all of this. And so what they're trying to do is like the far right in America feel like they've won the men. And so, you know, now they're trying to
We've got to get the women next.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. In the old days, like 150 years ago, women were more likely to be conservative.
Yeah.
And it's because they were trapped in very, very narrow spheres of existence and had so little connection to the wider society. And so, you know, the concerns were mostly around the family and whatever, and religion. Now it's almost flipped. Like women are more likely, you know, like to be integrated in social institutions than men. And so men just have the internet, which is basically a way of being alone. And, you know, they've become the conservative wing. But then, yeah, the women organizing side of it, like, I think one of the things that plays off is that women have a really hard time under modern capitalism, which is like all the, you know, work has become so normalized and so on, which is obviously positive. But then not that much has changed at home. So there's this double burden, which is extremely difficult. And then the far right or the hard right, maybe you could say, you know what, this is too hard. Actually, it would be better to not have to work. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of true. It would be better to not have to work for everyone. But obviously to advocate that just for women is reactionary. But that's the sort of appeal, you know, like, yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could just all hang around and cook all day and not have to work for a fucking boss? So there's that kind of appeal. And then they're trying to modernize it. So my understanding is like, they're very like conventionally attractive influencer type people. And they're like, they're sort of modern as well as being reactionary. Like they do stuff. It's not like they're just only at home, but it's just like hyper feminine and hyper male oriented. So.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting the way that the right talk about it, because, it's like they romanticize this sort of life that never existed really for any ordinary people. But they really want to put forward an argument that like women should be in the home and they shouldn't do anything else, and everything has to be about, meeting the needs of their partners. And anyone who doesn't fit into that mold is just like a hysterical idiot. Like, most people shouldn't listen to this. It was horrible, but I listened to a bunch of the Tucker Carlson interview with Nick Fuentes, who's a extremely right-wing figure in America. And he said that, like, most women who are liberal are overweight and ugly. Like, sort of they're the thing that you said about, Omar said about needing to be, this traditionally, conventionally attractive, thin, white, anything that transgresses that is a problem, and it's associated with the left as well.
But that's not. But that's not exactly how the women themselves talk about it.
No, it is.
No.
Yes, it is. They say that, like, you have to be trim. You can't have blue hair.
That stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true. But they don't pitch it only around serving men. Like, because I listened to this podcast, I think it was This American Life or something, and they were interviewing all these influencers. And they were saying, like, oh, it's so fulfilling, like, when I finally realized I didn't have to go to work.
Sure.
And I could just, like, bake this amazing bread and like, hang out with my girlfriends and discuss, whatever, recipes and stuff. So the way obviously the men are just absolute pigs, but the way the women talk about it in some ways is more dangerous because it kind of, because they are part of an oppressed group, they kind of get what's shit about it. But then their solutions are terrible far right solutions. Like, and apparently it's going quite well in America. Like there are very viral, like, conservative women influencers.
That's right.
Totally.
Advocating this kind of shit.
Yeah.
So the left has a solution, right? It's not like the status quo is great. Women are, like, living their best lives. Women are underpaid, overworked, not supported enough at home. There needs to be measures to address each of these things, right? And the fascists take us in the opposite direction.
Totally.
But they rely on the kind of failure of neoliberal progress,
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the statistics that's coming out from the Mamdani victory in New York is that 80% of women under 30 voted for him. Wow. So I think that, the idea of if you can actually put forward a political argument, obviously people don't just play into that bullshit. And thankfully, the sort of trad wife trend doesn't seem to be, dragging in too many layers of people. But I think, it's sort of, it points to the need to put forward a vision of what society could look like, which is very, very different to the vision that Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes put forward.
The fascist combo,
we want to put forward a vision which says that, well, the far right need to be pushed back into the gutters. Women need to have rights. We need free childcare. We need higher wages. We need a massive expansion of public housing. And when people have all of this stuff, when they fight and win for all of this stuff, they can actually start to see the kind of threads of common interest that run between people. Because I think a lot of the politics of the right, a lot of politics of capitalism, they try and make it seem like ordinary people are pit against one another. They're, divided against one another. They're enemies. Obviously, the far right are our enemies, but, the people that we have those links with are the working class, all across the world, despite their race, their ethnicity, their religion, their background. We have a common interest in fighting for one another.
This has been the Party Line podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you're looking for something to do this Saturday, come to the Go Health rally. It's at 2 p.m. outside Sarah Whitty's office, which is on, I don't know, in Fitzroy somewhere. We'll put a link in the show notes.
That's in Melbourne, by the way.
Sorry if you're listening internationally. I think we've got one listener in
if you're not
South
Melbourne,
Africa.
Identifying, Which I think it's quite a lot of people.
Yeah. It's probably my grandmother. It's actually probably not. She's very right-wing.
But yes, if you're in Melbourne, go to the Co-Health rally.
Yes.
And no matter where you are, you can support the Party Line. We actually want you to share this episode. If you've gone to the end, press the little button, give you the link and share it with your friends and help us spread the word about the Party Line.
Yeah, and sorry about the ad that you're about to listen to. If you don't want to listen to them anymore, sign up to the Patreon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling party line. Oh, I never will forsake thee, for I love this life of mine.